Imagine you're on a much-anticipated vacation, enjoying a quiet afternoon by the pool with your family, basking in the warmth of the sun, only for that perfect moment to be shattered by a group of officers who accuse you of something you never did. What follows is a series of events that take a sudden, unexpected turn, changing everything in the blink of an eye. But here's the thing. Fate has a way of evening the score. Within minutes, the very people who tried to wrongfully accuse you are forced to face the consequences of their actions in a way that no one could have predicted. This is the story we're about to unfold, a tale that highlights the impact of racial profiling and prejudice, and how a single twist of fate can turn the tables in the most surprising way. Stay with us as we explore how a chance encounter can lead to a dramatic shift, revealing the powerful forces of justice and karma. Before we dive into the story, take a moment to share your thoughts on fairness and equality in the comments below. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future stories of transformation and redemption. For the Williams family, this vacation was meant to be the perfect escape, a week of relaxation away from their busy lives in the city. The sun was bright, the pool sparkling, and everything felt idyllic. Sarah, the mom, had been working tirelessly for months, and this trip was the reward she had promised herself and her 2 children. James, her husband, had been putting in long hours at work to make sure the family could enjoy this much-needed break. Their kids, Maya and Elijah, were having the time of their lives, splashing in the pool, their laughter filling the air. But what began as a dream vacation soon turned into a nightmare. The family was enjoying their time at a private resort pool when 2 police officers suddenly appeared. At first, it seemed like a simple misunderstanding, something that could easily be cleared up. But instead of listening to their side, the officers quickly began accusing the family of breaking some vague rule, claiming they didn't belong there. Sarah, taken aback, explained that they were paying guests and had every right to be at the pool. But the officers were uninterested. "It's not about what you say, ma'am. It's about how it looks," one officer said, his voice thick with suspicion. Despite there being no reason for such an accusation, the officer's bias was painfully obvious. Having faced injustice in the past, James remained composed, doing his best to defuse the situation. Yet his attempts seemed to be in vain. Maya and Elijah clung to each other, their faces a mix of confusion and fear, while Sarah's heart raced. Could this really be happening again? Hadn't they done enough to deserve a peaceful break? Time dragged on, each second feeling like an eternity. Just as the tension reached its peak, something unexpected occurred. A man, standing off to the side, caught everyone's attention. He had been observing the entire exchange quietly, his mere presence exuding an air of respect and authority without a single word spoken. At first, Sarah couldn't quite place him, but then it hit her. The face was unmistakable. It was none other than Barack Obama, the former president of the United States. Encountering someone as prominent as Obama was rare, but this wasn't just any encounter. It was happening at a time when everything seemed to be falling apart. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as the realization set in. She had watched him on TV, admired his tireless fight for justice, and here he was, right in front of her, as the situation unraveled. Obama stood there, observing the officer's unwarranted behavior with a stoic expression. While his face remained composed, Sarah could sense an underlying fury simmering just beneath the surface. He had seen this kind of racial profiling before, but this time it felt personal. He wasn't just a political figure, he was a man who had experienced the sting of unjust treatment firsthand. As Obama stepped forward, the energy in the air shifted. The expected confrontation didn't come. Instead, his voice broke the tension with calm authority. "Gentlemen," he began, his tone firm yet controlled, "I believe you've made an error." The officers hesitated, caught off guard by the unexpected intervention. They weren't sure how to react. Obama continued, "This family is here to enjoy their vacation. They've done nothing wrong, and the decision you're about to make will follow you for a long time." Embarrassment washed over the officers' faces, but their inflated egos prevented them from admitting any wrongdoing. One officer attempted to justify his actions, mentioning a vague complaint about the family. Obama, unwavering, calmly asked the pivotal question, "Where is the evidence?" Where's the proof that these individuals deserve to be treated this way? At that moment, the officers were speechless. They hadn't considered how their actions would look if someone with the authority to question them stood up for what was right. As the tension mounted, Obama turned to Sarah and her family. "I'm sorry you had to deal with this," he said, his voice softer now. "This isn't how any vacation should be, especially not in a place that's supposed to be welcoming." Sarah could hardly believe it. The former president of the United States was standing there, advocating for her family. But what happened next took everyone by surprise. Obama, in his calm and composed manner, turned back to the officers, his words cutting through the air. "Discrimination has consequences. You might think you're in control now, but what you're doing here, this moment, will follow you long after today. I can assure you of that." The officers shifted uncomfortably, but they still didn't back down. They had their pride, and they weren't ready to let it go. That's when Obama took out his phone and made a quick call. Sarah couldn't hear the conversation, but she didn't need to. Within minutes, a series of higher-ups from the resort's management and local authorities arrived at the scene. The officers, who had believed they were above reproach, suddenly found themselves surrounded by figures of authority. Obama's influence had taken hold, and the officers knew they were in serious trouble. Within moments, the higher-ups took the situation out of their hands, insisting the officers step aside. But the damage had been done, and the Williams family had experienced the sting of prejudice once again. However, this time, things didn't end there. Obama had made sure that the officers would face consequences. Later that evening, news reports emerged that the officers were being placed under review, and a public apology was issued to the Williams family. The following days were a whirlwind for the Williams family. They had originally planned to let the incident fade into the background, just another unfortunate event on their vacation. But the world had other plans. Thanks to the intervention of Barack Obama, what started as a quiet confrontation by the pool had turned into a national conversation. News outlets picked up the story, broadcasting footage of the tense moment by the pool. The scene, captured by a few bystanders, quickly went viral. The public was outraged, not just by the officers' behavior, but by the unjust treatment the Williams family had endured. Social media exploded with comments from people of all walks of life, sharing their own stories of racial profiling, injustice, and the painful effects of discrimination. The hashtag Justice for the Williams family trended for days. For Sarah, the outpouring of support was both overwhelming and comforting. She had hoped to enjoy a peaceful vacation, but instead, she found herself thrust into the spotlight. People from across the world reached out to her with messages of encouragement. Some shared their own experiences, while others simply thanked her for standing firm in the face of such adversity. James, ever the protector, felt a mix of pride and anger. On one hand, he was proud of the way his family had handled the situation. On the other, he felt the weight of the unjust treatment they had suffered. He found himself thinking about the long-term effects on his children, Maya and Elijah. How would this event shape their view of the world? Would they grow up more cynical, more cautious about their place in society? Or would this spark a fire in them to stand up for what was right? Obama's role in the incident became even more significant as time passed. While the former president had walked away from the confrontation, the aftermath of his actions were far-reaching. It was clear that the officers had underestimated the power of accountability, and it was evident that the public demanded more from those entrusted with authority. The resort, embarrassed by the media attention and the way its staff had mishandled the situation, issued an official apology to the Williams family. The management promised to implement training on diversity and inclusion for all their employees, a step many saw as a positive move. But for Sarah and James, the apology felt insufficient. It was a gesture, but it didn't erase the emotional toll the incident had taken on them. More than that, the real change they hoped for was the acknowledgement that no one, no matter their race or background, should ever feel less than or unsafe, especially when they were just trying to enjoy a family vacation. Yet while the family was surrounded by media attention and public support, something deeper began to shift within them. Sarah started receiving calls from other families who had experienced similar injustices. They were reaching out to her for guidance, for strength, and for solidarity. Sarah realized that her voice, amplified by the attention of the situation, could make a difference. She and James began to talk about what steps they could take to turn this incident into something positive, not just for their own family, but for others who had suffered silently. Meanwhile, the officers involved in the incident were placed under internal investigation, their actions now under the microscope. They had believed themselves to be untouchable, but the ripple effect of their prejudice was about to be felt far beyond that day at the pool. Months had passed since the incident at the resort. The Williams family had returned home, tried to settle back into their routines, but the memory of that day lingered. Though the public outcry had died down, the impact of what had happened remained in their hearts. In an unexpected turn of events, Sarah was invited to speak at a national conference on racial justice and equality. The conference was an opportunity to bring together activists, leaders, and changemakers from around the country to discuss solutions for addressing racial prejudice in various systems, including law enforcement. Sarah felt a deep sense of responsibility to speak, not just for her family, but for the countless others who had suffered in silence. James and the kids came with her. They had come a long way from that vacation, but the wounds were still there. Sarah stood on stage, looking out at the sea of faces in the audience, and shared her story. She spoke of the humiliation, the fear, and the eventual strength she found through support, through the unexpected help of Barack Obama, and the importance of standing up against injustice. The crowd was moved by her words. They listened, they felt her pain, and they felt a collective determination to be part of the solution. Sarah spoke not just of the incident itself, but of the power of community and the need for systemic change. She called for greater accountability and training in law enforcement, for policies that would ensure all people, no matter their skin color, could feel safe and valued in every space they entered. As the applause echoed through the room, Sarah realized that something had shifted. She had turned her family's traumatic experience into a platform for change, and in doing so, she had given others the courage to share their own stories, to demand justice, and to believe that change was possible. Meanwhile, the officers who had caused the initial disruption were quietly dismissed from their positions. Their careers ended in disgrace, a result of their actions and the subsequent public fallout. The consequences of their discrimination had caught up with them, proof that injustice, no matter how powerful it may seem in the moment, cannot go unchallenged forever. Karma had done its work, and the scales of justice had balanced, but not without a heavy price. The Williams family, though scarred by the experience, found peace in knowing they had made a difference. They had faced prejudice, had seen the ugliness of the world, but had also seen the power of standing up for what was right. Their vacation had been marred by a tragic event, but in the end, they had turned that moment into a stepping stone for justice, transformation, and change. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think about the power of standing up against prejudice, then make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more stories of change and justice. We're all capable of making the world a better place, one action at a time. Don't forget to comment below and share your thoughts on how we can continue to fight for fairness, respect, and equality in our everyday lives. Together, we can create a future where everyone feels safe and valued. Thanks for watching, and until next time, let's keep spreading the message of change, one story at a time.